So I'm here with Ben Hurd. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about your footballing background?
Yeah, sure, no problem. That's a bit of a throw one. I didn't realise you'd start with that. Yeah, as a young lad, when I was about 6 years old, I started playing football. Well, I played football since I could walk, but then actually got into a team when I was about 6, 7 years old in St Albans, where I'm from. It's on a park, and then obviously really enjoyed it. I had a twin brother who also played football, and then I got picked up by playing for my grassroots team, which was St Albans City. I got picked up by Watford at the age of 8 and then stayed in the system all the way through till I was 16, and then I left school and became as a YTS player back then, but a scholarship, modern day scholarship if you like. And then at 17, I signed my first professional contract, and then I got released there when I was 20. So I had a 2 year, 2 and a bit year professional contract, and then I went to Shrewsbury in the football league where I stayed there for 4 years and played something like 160 odd games, and then I went to Aldershot, also in the football league, where I became captain and played just under 200 games there as well. So yeah, so I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. So, what's your opinion on the footballing pyramid from top to bottom?
Top to bottom,
Yeah.
I think it's unique in the world. When you think about the depth and breadth that we have in this world, this game, sorry, in this country, it's unlike anything in the world. You know, you're getting we had 500 people here at the weekend. We did the previous weekend. We had 1,500 people against Ware. Even at this level, which is I think the ninth division of English football, maybe eighth. I don't know. I haven't really worked out. But nonetheless, it's significant numbers, and you know you only have to go at this level and just up a little bit more, and you're getting 3, 4 thousand people every week going to watch football. So for me, the demand and the sort of appetite for local football, non-league football is really good. And look, where most professional, or if not all professional players stem from a club like a Hertford Town, a grassroots club who they take their first steps into football with. And where that goes, obviously, is obviously down to them a little bit. But it's a breeding ground for Premier League clubs and Football League clubs to take obviously young talent as well. So it's an essential part of the ecosystem of football, basically. And I'm pleased that one, it's funded a little bit. I'd like to see a little bit more funding from the higher echelons of the game to safeguard this level of the game for sure. Because, like I say, players aren't born into academies; they're made, if you like. I say made loosely, but they start certainly at the clubs like a Hertford Town, which is really important to preserve.
So you kind of talked about the finances. Then, if, for example, Hartford were given, similar money to a club in kind of a higher division, do you think that would make such a significant difference towards kind of the club, the atmosphere, the players, and just how the football is as a whole?
Yeah, I think you have to compartmentalize it a little bit though, because I think that it's really important that any money that's given to a football club is firstly spent on infrastructure and improvement of facilities, because one, the enjoyment of players and opening that up to a wider pool of people is important. By being able to offer improved facilities, it gives you the capabilities of doing that. But then secondly, as well, that it shouldn't be frittered away on first team players, which some unscrupulous people might do. You know, they get a wad of money from someone and it's not really designated for anything, and you want to win the league this year, so you're going to go heavy on your first team squad and overpay on a budget, but you actually neglect facilities. I think that's not the right way around. I'd like to see a little bit more an increase in funding for facilities and infrastructure, because it also gives you the opportunity then to build a bit more of a business off the pitch, which then becomes self-fulfilling and self-sustainable going forward. You know, if we built a lovely clubhouse and it was all singing, all dancing, we could host parties and stuff like that. It's obviously going to give us an extra income, which then could go and improve facilities, but also again elevate our playing budget as well, which makes us more competitive at higher levels. So that's really important that you have that both sides of the game, really, improvement in facilities and infrastructure, which then leads to improvement overall.
So still on the finances, obviously the Premier League is kind of, within England and within the world really, the main financial point for football. Do you think if, for example, they were to take away 15, 20 million away just from TV rights within the league and spread it throughout the lower divisions, how do you think that would affect the rest of the pyramid?
Well, they do in some respects. So there are grants and available funds that we do have, like it's called many things over the last few years. Stadium Infrastructure Fund is now called, I think, the Premier League Stadium Fund. So a club like ours at step four would be privy to be receiving £150,000 in grants, but that's on a 5-year rolling cycle, and it's 70% match funding. So what I mean by that is that the FA would, if we obviously tick the right criteria, for example, floodlights. We need to get new floodlights. Just pretend they're going to cost £100,000 for easy maths, and we went through the process of doing that. The FA would, out of that fund, would give us £70,000. We'd have to go and find £30,000, which is challenging as well. A club like ours, we've got to run, we've obviously got overheads and costs as well, which are spiralling as everyone else's is. But the principle remains a good one. I would just like to see, for me personally, that's not linked to any inflationary measure. So 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that £150,000 was still £150,000. The purchasing power 10 years ago was a lot more than it is today, and that hasn't risen in the interim period, whereas the cost of living and inflationary measures have risen significantly. So I'd like to see that linked to something where we don't, because effectively every year that's worth less for inflation. So I think that would be a good mechanism to pin it to put some sort of inflationary measure. And also I'd like to see the amount and the availability of funds being a bit more apparent to clubs like us, like local level, council level as well, in terms of like district and county level, central government wise as well. What funds are there available to clubs like us, without us having to trawl through everything and try and hire in people to do it, because it takes a lot of time and resource to run a football club. Additionally, then to go and find extra funding that's potentially out there, which is great, don't get me wrong, but it would be great if there was extra help in helping people to find those pots of money that we are eligible for, and then trying to obviously pin it to projects around the stadium that we could actually use it for as well.
So obviously at lower level players come, they go, and they go. How easy is it, or how hard is it to kind of keep hold of your best players? If they do go at the end of the season, what's the main reason that you find they move on?
There's a multitude of reasons. Look, there's two sides, I suppose. Ones that haven't been playing, that want to go and play, and maybe not for you, like not in your plans, maybe. And they haven't maybe hit sufficient games that they feel that they should have, and they potentially want to go somewhere else to go and play more regularly. So that's okay. And then the other side of it is that players do really well. Look, there's a pyramid, isn't there? And there's, like you mentioned, there's a food chain in that pyramid. So players will inevitably be caught by higher teams that they might want to go and play for them, in a higher division, a better division, more money, whatever their motive is. But that's often on the table. So it's difficult to replace players. That's why you get quite a high turnover and churn of players in non-league, because of that. No one's fixed the contracts predominantly. So there's not much, I say loyalty, but I mean like fixed loyalty, because there isn't contracts. They can come and go as they please. So it becomes a little bit more difficult. So really what you're looking for there is relationships, and I suppose value added as well, in terms of what can we offer, not just money, but how do we attract a certain demographic of player that we would like, and what do we give them other than money? So that's the important thing as well, I'd say.
Thank you. So do you feel that as if the football pyramid in itself is
fair? Yes, in essence, yeah. Listen, there's some nuances to that. 3 up, 3 down from the football league to the national league. People might argue that one. Maybe is that fair? I don't know. The opportunity to go up is there. The opportunity to go down is also there. So I think it's an equal playing field for people. Obviously, look, you're going to have the haves and have-nots in terms of finance and fan bases and things like that, but that's just the way of life, isn't it? Some have more than others. It's about what you do with what you've got to try and punch above your weight, really. Like if you look at Brighton and Brentford, great models, if you like, in the Premier League, they don't have as much money as Tottenham, but they're doing better than Tottenham at the moment. So yeah, so it's horses for courses, I would say. So fairness, I don't know if fairness comes into it. The opportunity for everyone to compete and to get the same outcome is there, at both ends. So yeah, I'd say it's fair.
If you kind of could change anything within that pyramid, what would it be?
Oh, it's a good question. What would I change? Not too much, to be fair. In terms of the purest of the pyramid and where it leads to, look, in theory, this is unlike American sports, for example, a Hertford Town could, in theory, get to the Premier League. That's, I'm not saying we are, but that's obviously the dream for everyone, that you can climb the ladder basically and try and sustain at the next level, and so on and so on. And when you think about histories of football clubs, we're at a club here that's 118 years old. What you want to do is leave it in a better position, on and off the field, than when you found it, really. That custodial sort of role that everyone has who runs a football club has to really take that on board, that the club's going to thrive and be here long after I've left and everyone else has left. You want to leave it in really good hands, and it's sustainable, and people aren't having to come and mop up and have to breathe life into something. You want to make it a really functional football club, both financially and playing wise, which is really sustainable, really. So that's my biggest thing. So what would I change? Maybe ownership. Yeah, ownership. I'd think that you protect clubs more. I know that they're trying to protect clubs more, but there shouldn't be instances where I see that an owner comes in and annexes the club from its ground and then nicks the ground off them effectively and wants to build houses on it, because it's for that person's personal intentions and use and profit. Whereas I think that you should protect football clubs. You can't do that. And the football club is like a holy community asset, basically, where you can't do too much, alter too much without real stringent permissions. That it stays at a football club. That's what I would try and protect.
Brilliant, thank you.